So I have no idea as to how many Cooking for Peace events we've held. We've held so many. And I want to basically plug a little bit Sister Gita's upcoming book called Cooking for Peace, The Dancing Yogi. So basically the food, the cookbook is ready for the exception of getting her pictures in the cookbook. So we'll let you know as soon as that's released, which will be available online for you to download and see. So when we started Cooking for Peace, we wanted to be able to educate our community in Montgomery County and the global community that your kitchen has a lot to do with the vibrations of how your food turns out. So first and foremost, a lot of us tend to enter in our kitchen and there's a lot of pots and pans and plates and cups in there. And one of the practices that we encourage folks to do is if you're living with a family and you've got kids or teenagers, please encourage them to wash their dishes when they're finished eating, not to just throw it in the sink and leave it for mom to do or somebody else. So the importance of actually keeping the kitchen clean is basically to help to generate the energy and the vibration of prosperity. In mystical cultures, they say that based on the quality in which you prepare your food, the quality in which you cook your food and eat your food and share your food, it becomes a means of bringing financial abundance into the household. Have you ever heard this saying, the way to a man's heart is through his stomach? Remember that old saying? Okay, so the way to the heart of any person is with the quality of the energy of the food that you cook with. So apparently, there is a very, very deep karmic mystical connection that if the energy in your kitchen has peace and cleanliness, in itself, abundance will find its way there. If your kitchen is cluttered, dirty, messy, greasy, sometimes because we cook so much for people that sometimes when I go into the kitchen and I can smell the grease, I instantly will take some cleaning agent and just start to clean the cupboards because I can't handle the smell. Or I'll light some candles or even an incense because the kitchen shouldn't smell like a restaurant. It should smell like a home with abundance. Interesting, right? It's such a small thing, but little did we know that the way that we leave our kitchen also connects to the way money finds me or the way money leaves me, because food is connected a lot to the way you feel as a person. The way you feel as a person has a lot to do with the way you earn money and spend money. If you feel empty inside, you're going to spend more money. If you feel full and contented inside, you preserve more money and you're more inspired to earn more. It's such a deep philosophy, isn't it? Like when you hear it in that context, right? So the first thing to look at is the vibrations in your kitchen, that the kitchen has this energy in it. And the impact of the vibration right now, scientists have proven to us that you have the ability to change the energy in matter. The reason why everybody who comes in here feels at peace, even though we're on Georgia Avenue and you hear the fire brigades and you can still hear the background noises, it's not strong enough to make me peaceless. So the vibrations of everybody's thinking is actually penetrating the walls, the carpet, the chair, the art pieces, the space. So that means the quality of your kitchen, the quality of the food is impacted by the state in which you're in. So vibrations make an impact on the energy that you place in the food. So some of the things that we would like to recommend, especially if you don't feel like you're in a good mental space, these are the steps we invite you to take. 1, play some good music, and please don't play Adele. Music that will make you think about a broken heart. I couldn't say because we're on Facebook and I don't want to get censored. But don't play music that makes you remember you're brokenhearted. experience what he did, what he didn't do, he should have done. Oh my God, this divorce was awful. And every time you hear that song, that's what you go back to. So that's not the kind of music you want to play in the kitchen. Because when you eat, that vibration will be in the food. And even when people are eating, they're like, so how's your ex-husband? They'll start to talk about him, or your ex-wife. And so you want to play music that has an inspirational tone to it. You've got so many beautiful songs out there, that are reminding us about who we are. Whether it's Aretha, Stevie, whether it's Please Help Me, whatever, you know them, right? Do not go play music that's got bad words or talking anything in the kitchen. Oh yeah, this is good. Throw the tofu on the Barbie. You don't want that. You can do that after you eat and after you take that out there, because that kind of energy is serving your temple. And that's why our tolerance level is so short, because we're also putting vibrational sounds in our system that makes us short, very sensitive. So choose music, whether it's Beethoven, Bach, Tchaikovsky, some of your beautiful religious, inspirational songs, positive songs. There's a lot good feeling songs. Sister Gita loves to play the song Because I'm Happy, and she puts the tofu and she goes, yeah, go Baba, and she puts the food in the food like that. So when we walk in the kitchen, we really automatically just all feel happy, and then we just feel like helping to clean up because she's in a good mood. Right? So we also suggest, if you don't want to play music, listen to our masterclass. Download on Spotify the America Meditating Radio. You get to hear a lot of great conversations by a lot of experts on how to do life better. You can also listen to Super Soul Sunday. You can listen to a lot of various programs that are out there that are constantly helping you to be a better human being. So imagine when you're cooking, how you're thinking like, oh my gosh, yeah, that's true. I have that capacity to do that. So as you're cooking, you're putting now the vibration of wisdom in the food. That means your teenager, your kids, your husband, your spouse, everyone's going to start to feel a little bit more intelligent. Let me hear America Meditating Podcast, or Super Soul Sunday, and then it'll just come up in an instant. If none of that is needed, then silence is always good. And in the silence, generate a pure thought. I'm a peaceful soul, and I'm cooking for my peaceful family. And just create a mantra. You don't have to create an encyclopedia about the thought that you're having in peace, but you just remind yourself, I am a peaceful being. I am a pure being, and I'm preparing this food in remembrance of God. I'm preparing this food hoping that every mouth that can taste the food that I'm cooking with love for God, that those who don't have food will grab the essence. You can create a lot of positive thoughts in silence. And then what happens is, see, when you cook without a lot of external disturbance in the kitchen, a lot of waste thoughts can also come up. Because cooking doesn't require a lot of thinking. So when you're cooking and getting everything that you do every day, all of a sudden, your boss comes up. All of a sudden, what happened at work comes up, and you're like, I tell you, I'm just going to quit that job because this guy is such a pain. And before you know it, you have no idea what energy you've put into the food. And that's not serving your cells, that's not serving your mind, and that's not serving your kitchen. So that's why when you understand the meaning of silence, silence is to generate pure and positive thoughts consciously. And when you generate pure and positive thoughts consciously, you're more at peace with yourself. It's the impure, wasteful, and negative thoughts that make you peaceless. Isn't that interesting? Impure, waste, and negative thoughts make us peaceless. Impure, because I can see everyone going, oh my gosh, really? Impure, waste, and negative thoughts make us peaceless. And if we've developed a pattern to keep creating those thoughts, where it becomes our nature, we don't even know that we're bringing those vibrations into our environment, right? So that's why you need to be conscious that when you're in silence, you're generating positive, pure, and necessary thoughts. Any questions? Is it clear? All right. So candles, incense. Candles take away the smell of the oil when you cook, which is why it's a really good thing to just light when you're cooking if you happen to be doing a lot of. I'm known for my pakoras, which in Asian other cultures like Chinese or Japanese they call it tempura, and we call it pakoras in Indian culture. And so I'm very well known for my pakoras. And so when we make pakoras, the whole kitchen smells of oil. So you have to kind of light a candle so that it takes away that oil smell. And then when you're done, you can wipe down the cupboard so it doesn't keep the house smelling like you're in a restaurant. Remember, whatever's going on in your kitchen, it's the hub of the home. The kitchen is where you get sustained. The kitchen is your source of life. And if that's not holy and sacred, neither is your life. That's why in our teachings and in our cultures, Brahma Kumaris and Kumaris, we value a lot on the upkeep and the cleanliness of the kitchen and the food. Right? So the yogi diet, what does it mean to spiritualize our diet? It's more than just following an ancient or modern theory of what we should eat. But when we plug into our life force and true self, we realize life is about relating. Whether we relate to a soul, to the body, or to the natural world, the art of the yogi is to infuse all relationships with integrity, care, and wisdom. Again, if your mind is nurtured, so will be your relationships. So the deepest truths of life are often the simplest, and we return to our real nature. It makes sense to return to real food. So when we are trying to make our lives better, it makes sense to also eat better. So if I want to be more of a positive person, but I'm not eating healthier, then there's a battle going on with myself, whether it's subtle or even gross. But I don't feel good when I put something in my body that isn't healthy, even I want to be better. Did you ever do like what I did when I was a teenager? That I would go on these diets and want to lose weight, and then I would justify myself to have the chocolate cake and the Diet Coke, and I felt good. Did you ever do that? I thought it was normal until I grew up. Because I was like, okay, look, I'm saving all these calories with the Diet Coke. Not knowing the chocolate cake wasn't helping. You know, so I just felt like I was balancing out my issues, but later on I learned the hard way. But anyway. As we return to our real nature, it makes sense to return to real food. So the universe, the elements of nature, and our bodies are infinitely intelligent. Again, underline this. The universe, the elements of nature, and our bodies are infinitely intelligent. So fruits, vegetables, grains, and nuts in their natural form align us with that intelligence and nourish us with its benefits. So here is, I'm going to pause right here, because why I think that this description was important is that when you look at the way that you treat your kitchen, or the way you enter the kitchen, or the way you decide to cook as an internal affair, and when you take care of the internal affair, the external results will match the internal state. So first and foremost, kitchen, clean. Peaceful, inspirational. It's up to you how you want it. The second thing is that we always recommend that why a vegetarian diet we find now to be even more important than ever before is that right now there's so many genetically modified ingredients in food today because of population increase, because of capitalism, because of corporate greed. Call it what you must. But until we become conscious about the food we put in our system, don't go blaming the healthcare industry for charging you high, incredible amount of money for your health and well-being. We have to take a stance. And we have to become more responsible for the way that we eat. I know that we're going to be serving you some of the tasting foods that we prepared for you today. Maybe in another 10 minutes, we'll get it out and serve it to you. But before we do that, I really want to emphasize that the importance of including a vegetarian diet. Let's say that we're not inviting you to stop eating anything with a soul, but we're inviting you to amplify eating things without a soul. So some people will say to you, well, doesn't a tree have a soul, sister? Doesn't leaves have a soul? I just tell them, Om Shanti, I don't have time for that conversation. Please don't go there with me. I don't. Don't play that. So when you think about the natural resources of our planet, and I've had this discussion, and I've also done some investigation, but I still need more investigation to do as well. And I thought about, when is it that we actually started to indulge in eating animals for survival? And then I knew that it had to come at a point in time when there must have been natural calamities, where the natural resources were affected, whether it was by an earthquake or a hurricane or a typhoon or a flood. And as a result of not having any of the natural food, it was just natural that we would see an animal and we would take its life sacredly because we knew it was going to feed the family. So I thought about that. And I thought about when the environment and the grains and the fruits and the vegetables were able to come back into season, that we had then developed a habit and a taste for this, that we didn't really think much about going back there. And so in the last 100 years, our population has increased 6 times than it used to be. In 1902, the population of the complete global population was 1.2 billion people on the planet. Within the last 110 years to 120 years, the population has increased to 7 billion mouths to feed. So when you see the apples are bigger than they used to be, when you see the bell peppers are larger, when you see the eggplants are this big, when you see the cabbage are this big, it is supposed to be because the population has increased so much that we need to feed these mouths. But then there's a flip side to all of this, because there's a lot of food as well that's being wasted. There are a lot of animals that are getting killed because they're not needed to be put into the stores. There are a lot of baby calves that are being taken away because we consume a lot of milk and a lot of cheese and so on. Now, I'm not saying none of that is wrong, but I'm saying that if we can somehow curtail the suffering on the planet, then it's as if my karmic energy will feel more at peace, knowing I contributed here. I might not be the healer for the whole planet, but I believe that each and every one of us in this room is part of the healing process. And that's why if we include a yogi diet, which is a vegetarian diet, we can guarantee that you'll feel a whole lot better and you'll think a whole lot clearer. Now, I'm going to say something that might shock some of you, but we don't even indulge in garlic or onions in our diet. And I'll explain to you why. Garlic and onions, it's okay if you are a meat eater because they help with the digestion of the meat in your body. But when you have gone on to a yogi diet, which is a vegetarian diet, you don't need garlic and onions because, one, when we switch over from meat to vegetarian, you've made a conscious shift. That means there's something in your personality that's softening. One. Second, the food that you're putting in your system will not require so many years to digest. It takes 7 years to digest a steak meal. That means each time you have a steak dinner, how many years it stays backed up in your system, which is why when people go to the bathroom, sometimes it's not the best Chanel fragrance of the day. But for more people who might be sort of like cleansing out their system, and there's a lot of cleansing out and detoxing, then usually it's not a very high intense odor because the system doesn't have a lot of toxins in your body. And that's why when we go to the bathroom, the smells are different, which is a sign that we're not putting in the right energies in our bodies. Isn't that amazing? Yeah, I didn't know that until I turned vegetarian that I noticed the difference, by the way. So I'm just letting you know that I was able to recognize that there is a big change. There is a big shift. So we are inviting you to include it. And if and when you're ready to make the shift, just know that your mind will feel a whole lot better, your body will feel a whole lot better, and the way you relate to people will be a whole lot better because you're more calm. And I'm not saying this as a negative, but very, 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 very small, minute numbers of individuals incarcerated are vegetarians. Look at the statistics. Which is why I remember that guy who was the sniper here a few years ago. Remember that? Remember the young guy or something was a vegetarian and he was asking for a vegetarian while he got inside the prison? And we were so shocked. We were like, why would he do that? You know? Because usually when you don't bring into your body a lot of aggressive energy, you won't think aggressively. But when you induce food that leaves, if the energy of the animal's soul leaves the body in an aggressive way, the vibration of that is in the blood. So when we're eating it, we still get the vibration. And if we eat it every day, it just naturally flows into our system. So we don't really know why we're sometimes angry for no reason. Another thing, very important for you to be very mindful of who you eat from. I actually don't eat out at restaurants, but when I do, because I have a lot of social responsibilities and obligations, I will take nuts, salads, rolls, and teas. And I tell you why I choose to do it, is that if the chef or the people in the kitchen are in a very loud and angry state, that vibration is going in the food. And if I'm trying to feel better for myself, why am I paying $50 or $80 for a dish that's not making me feel better? So if the vibration of the person in the kitchen isn't in a very peaceful or calm state, know that you're investing as well in that vibration. Which is why when you go to high-end restaurants, there is a kind of a different kind of energy. It's an artistic way of the food that it's prepared, and there's more of an accountability as to how the food is prepared with that sort of reverence or artistic. But each dish is sometimes like 100 or 150, depends on the restaurant you go to.
That energy can't be passed on to a salad then?
No, because before you eat, the salad and the foods and stuff were fresh, and then your energy transforms that. So when we're there, before we eat our food, we will always sit in meditation, sort of with our eyes open, and allow the peaceful energy to flow through the food. Now, you could say, well, can't you do that for the meat or for the fish or for the food that was cooked, even if it was vegetables that was cooked? And I would say, yes, you can. You can do it. I'm saying that for me, I choose not to. Only because my energy is really super, super subtle. And so I pick up thoughts and energies way much faster than the average person. So I have to protect that power in me and not abuse it. So if you go out and you eat those kinds of foods, yes, praying over your food helps. Sending good wishes helps. But I do recommend that you're just mindful as to what you eat from and who you eat from. How many of you have read the Mahabharata? It's an old Indian fable. And there's a story about two characters that were fighting. And I can't remember all the names, but one of the bad guys, he was inviting Lord Krishna over for dinner before they went to battle. And Lord Krishna was pretty clear that I wasn't going to eat from you, because if I ate from you, I'd be under your spell. So again, the energy of food in which you eat from, does it put you under that influence? Food for thought. There was once a sister who, she was going through some health issues. And for about 2 weeks or 3 weeks, she kept feeling that she was going to die. And I was eating the food, but I didn't know that those were her thoughts. And I was away in India for a while, and I was walking around with this feeling in my consciousness that, why am I getting this thought of death or dying? And then the vision that came was that the sister was cooking with the fear that she was going to die. And it was the first time that we had actually looked into her eyes and witnessed that she looked like she wasn't going to hold on much longer. So even though she was a good person and she was cooking from a place of goodness, we could still pick up her thoughts. So if people in the kitchen are cooking with energies and vibrations about their worries, their bills, their relationships, then do you need any additional issues in your life? So we invite you to think about where you choose to eat. What's consciousness? And if you have to eat out in public, just really put your pure vibrations. I'm at some of the most elite gatherings. I'm fortunate enough to be around a lot of influential leaders in the world. And so when they prepare the food, it's with love and it's with vibrations, and they know I can't eat the food that they eat. But when the food is served and I'm sitting there, I'm generally the first and maybe only one that starts to pause and put vibrations over the food, and then I'll watch them pause and also take a moment of reflection and prayer before eating. Again, how do you show reverence for something that's sustaining you? Do you understand the importance of food? So as is the food, so will be your mind. Right? Make sense? As is the food, so is your mind. So I'd like to pause here for a little bit because I think I've given a lot of information, and it's really God formation because I think that it just helps you to move closer towards sacredness, to a little bit more of a soothing way of existing, and how to keep yourself a little bit healthier. I'm not saying that when you go on a vegetarian diet you won't get sick. We don't know what our karmas are. But what I do know is that when I do choose to do a vegetarian diet, at least I'm better for that at this time, and I'm better for the world. Like I show up for the world with that better state. All right, so do you have any thoughts or questions that you might have regarding what I've just shared? Any aha moments? Go ahead.
Like last week, I made some food for my daughter and a friend, and I wasn't in a good mental space at the time. And my daughter picked up on it, and she said the eggs didn't taste as good as it usually does.
Wow. Yeah.
And I put the same ingredients.
The same stuff in there. What a great story. So someone just shared that they made some food for their daughter and their friend last week, and she happened to have not been in a really good state while she was cooking, and her daughter actually commented that, "Mom, this doesn't taste as good as it usually does." And sister was just saying that I cooked it exactly how I usually do, but she was right. I wasn't in a good mental space. Has your husband or your wife ever served you dinner kind of like this? Have they ever done that before? It's one of the most heartbreaking. I remembered once I got served like that, and I was like, I am not eating that food. I don't care what you do to me. I am going to send that food to a shelter, but that's not coming into my system. And I don't mean that as a negative to any shelters. But the vibration that people really put things in, you have to be very conscientious that that's not your business. I mean, it's okay that you're not in a good mood. So then what do you do if you go home and you're tired and your spouse or your partner or your roommate's not in a good mood and they happen to have cooked in that state? What do you do? Food for thought. You cook your own food. There are times I will just say, I'm not feeling so great today. You know, I just need maybe some fluids or just something really light. Because this depends on how serious you are about your well-being. See, if you're serious about your well-being, you speak the truth. I can't put that in me. Not today. And then I would pack it the next day, because then the vibrations will be less, and maybe I'll take it to work. Maybe I'll share it for lunch or give it to somebody, but I'll definitely put vibrations in it later. Right? So you have to think in this subtle way. Remember, everything you do every day, it goes into your system until it becomes just a normalized energy. And so sometimes when it becomes normal, you don't really know what it's doing to you. But imagine normalizing positivity and good food. Isn't that amazing? All right. You had a question?
Yes, I didn't realize that I wasn't honoring the food
Oh.
as it goes into my body. So I was not honoring my body. And so the food that I chose subconsciously was always negative because I chose out of a negative spirit
A great
and
insight.
gobbled it down, and then
Yeah.
and in return my body gave me high blood pressure.
Right. Great observation. So, Sister was sharing, and I'm only repeating because of Facebook, that she just wasn't honoring the food at the time, and then she realized that it's time for her to honor the food, because even as she was gobbling it down, she had no idea that she wasn't taking care of her temple. All right. So, Santosh, are you with me? Because I'm going to tell you a little bit about what you're going to get as your testers today. I know today we're also talking a little bit about vegan, and I'm so glad that I have been lactose intolerant all my life, so milk and stuff hasn't been always a big thing on my agenda. But today, I'll tell you what I made. I made loving asparagus and bell pepper delight. How does that sound? That means when you eat them asparagus, you're going to be real loving. And when you have those bell peppers, you're going to be in delight. All right? So look at what my ingredients was for the bell pepper and the asparagus. Just these two things. Do you think you can manage that? You must be like, oh Lord, I bet that food nasty. She didn't put no seasonings in that food. So imagine how I would recommend that you cook the asparagus and delight is the sesame seed, or just let it get really hot. Then you put your asparagus in it, and you let it get a little bit burnt, not burnt, but brown, and you flip that, brown it again, you stir it. Within 5 to 8 minutes, your meal is prepared. You put too much ingredients in the vegetables. Put your bell pepper, put your asparagus, I cook it separately, and you can sprinkle the oil halfway, not oil, the salt halfway in, halfway out. It depends on how much salt you want to cook with. And it's ready. The second dish that I do is deep thinking mushroom. Now, I don't use coconut oil for that. Deep thinking mushroom, I use vegetable oil. And I make sure that oil is very, very hot. And then I put the mushrooms in, and I let that keep sauteing, sauteing, sauteing. That usually takes a little bit longer. That's about maybe 10 minutes. I appreciate the mushrooms being brown. I don't like it still in its raw state, so I like to cook it where it's a little bit brown. I'll flip it around, turn it around a little bit, and I just add salt. And sometimes I will drain out the excess fluid that's in the frying pan and just let it get a little bit hard or crunchy, because I like it like that on my rice. So it depends on the way you like it. You might like it soft. If you like it crunchy, pour out the oil and the extra fluids and just let it simmer and go and fry. Never cover your frying pan if you're going to prepare these, especially these vegetables or mushrooms. It becomes too soft and mushy. If you want it crisp and refreshing and exciting, just keep it uncovered. The same thing is true for tofu. I hated tofu because it used to be so like blah, 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 like jelly. I go, and come on, I gave up Jamaican jerk chicken and pork for this, right? So I was just like, I couldn't eat tofu. And then we learned that you could make really good tasting tofu as long as you never cover the lid of your tofu. Now, how I learned to cook a lot of food was because of Sister Gita and many of the sisters in the Brahma Kumaris. But we would go out and we would see a dish like shrimp tempeh or lobster this or chicken this or steak this or pork, and what we would do is see the food and see the seasonings and just transform it into tofu or soya nuggets. And it would taste great. The only thing that would be excluded from our ingredients would be onions and garlic. And we would replace garlic with asafetida, which you can get at Indian stores. It's called hing, H-I-N-G. And you only need a little pinch of hing. This is it, actually. This is Santosh's thing, hing. And you just take a little pinch, and it's still, this was also Ayurveda, so it's actually very healthy for your system when it enters your body. And for onions, we don't do onions. We basically cut up cabbage and fry it in a little bit of butter. And it depends on you how much you need the flavor. We don't. And you don't even need to fry the cabbage in butter. You just put the cabbage in the food, and it will automatically soften up like onions. So again, the reason why we don't use garlic and onions is that it creates an irritation in the system, and because we're no longer meat eaters, we don't need it. And so onions stimulate more of your sexual hormones, and garlic stimulates a lot of your anger. So that's why you have to be mindful that if you are cleansing, those food become very toxic when they enter your system. There's a lot of research that's been done on it. So if you Google it, you can also find the reality. Some of them will connect a lot of how healthy it is, but it's predominantly for people who eat meat. But when you're off of meat, you don't need it at all. And plus you smell better. All right. So Santosh, so you got the loving asparagus and bell pepper delight, fried in hot frying pan for 10 minutes, stirring occasionally. Then you'll get today also some deep thinking mushroom, heat vegetable cooking oil, add mushrooms, let it cook till brown on each side, add salt, leave the pan off. So now Santosh is going to come and share his recipe, peaceful coconut rice, right?
Thank you.
He's been so busy today.
Thank you for sharing, sister. So, sister has only 2 ingredients, so you can see how many I have. And so she cooks so many things in no time. And so anyway, let me just read it. So this is coconut, peaceful coconut rice. So I usually use a pressure cooker. I use an electric pressure cooker, whatever pressure cooker. And so it's for serving 4 to 5. So what I did is coconut milk, 1 can, kidney beans, if you want a fresh or canned, tomatoes, diced, 1 can, and I used white rice, or you can use quinoa if you want, 2 cups, coconut oil or olive oil, yes. So the rice is less sticky, or quinoa is less sticky. And these are just optional: basil, fresh or dry, ginger, fresh or dry, black pepper, salt, how much ever you like. And the one Sister Jenna was sharing about the hing powder is the same thing I use. Some people say hing is usually helpful in digestion, because when you use coconut milk canned, it's very rich, so it helps with that. And crushed pepper, it's optional. If you want a little bit more spicy, you can use that. And water. Now water I usually use less, little bit. Here I'm replacing the water with coconut milk. So if I'm using 2 cups of rice, then usually I need 4 cups of water, double. But since I'm using coconut milk, whatever is left, that double, I add the remaining with water. So here I just put 1.5 cups. And that's it. So it's ready in 12 minutes. So basically, the electric cooker, you just put rice, press white rice. Instapot, or any electric cooker, you just press rice or white rice, it's done. If you're using a pot, like regular pot, then you will know, you may have to check when it's ready. But in between, after 5 minutes or so, mix once more. So sometimes the lighter, like herbs and all, come up, and it won't mix fully, so you mix it up in between. With electric cooker, you can't mix because you will remove the pressure. So just 5 minutes when you turn on, you can mix it.
And how did you learn to cook?
I'll be essential because the reason I learned to cook was I was forced to learn to cook. It's funny, but I'll keep it essential as much as I can. One is in India, you're always with your parents. So, but when I had to go to do college, for the first time I had to leave my home, and we rented this place whenever, but we had this little town where there was only one restaurant. And it's funny, there was, we are the only customers we saw in that town. And every time I went to that, and this guy always very pleasant, smiling, and only problem we had was he will do the same dish every day, every single day. And we told, it's probably, yeah. And it's a town where everyone cooks themselves too. So one day we got so tired of it, we asked him, we'll give you some extra money. You choose whatever you want to change, but one thing, you can change it. And he smiles and says, fine, and like that. And next day you go, it's the same thing again. So, and he was like, what's wrong? It's nice. So we one day decided on a weekend, we had all the utensils, kitchen and everything, nobody knew how to cook. So it is a town where you get everything fresh, organic, from farms, right, from the farmers. So we just bought it and we decided, we were like 5 housemates I had, and we decided we are going to cook, and however it turns out, we are going to eat also. So then we started off, and that's how I learned to cook. I was doing meditation then, but I was lazy to learn to cook. Now I have no option but to, we said this is better than going to this, eating the same every day. So then it turned out fine, and then we started to get every day from that day onwards a different vegetable to experiment with the same thing, and it turned fine. So some of my friends will cut vegetables, put on rice and all that, and I'll have like at that time there was still a boombox, not anymore now. So I'll play like a guided meditation CD on it, or some nice music, not fast music or anything. Mostly a guided meditation that keeps me on track with good thoughts. And I tell my friends not to come in the kitchen to talk something. They can talk whatever outside the kitchen while I'm cooking, so it's more peaceful. And after a month or so, I knew that there will be a big effect, but I didn't know it would be that big of an effect, where I felt that meditation was easier. And even my friends who don't meditate, they also felt something. And so it was nice. Yeah. Oh, thank you.
I'd like to tell a story too. When Santosh started to live with us, he was given Saturdays to cook, was his day for Saturday. So when we were at the old museum, we could always expect poha, which is the only dish he knew how to cook. So the karma got us, the same guy that he was asking in Chennai, couldn't you cook something else? We inherited that karma. So we ended up with the same problem, and then we said, you don't want to experiment with something else? Like what, chana? I don't want chana every week. And now he's a great cook. So we would love to be able to invite you to taste the food now, and what we would, good. So Coconut, peaceful coconut rice. Ingredients. What do you vote on that? Loving asparagus? Or bell pepper delight? Again, you can see how simple you can make your food, and sometimes when you really just want more flavor and more excitement, you can make a choice. The thing with vegetarianism is that you can just have fun with it. Please, sisters, come on out. Uh-huh.
I mean, I know my sister is a dietitian, and I know from her that frying is not always good. Because
Crying or frying?
Frying.
Yeah.
Crying
Yeah.
too, I'm sure. So basically, because it like extracts all the nutrients from the food.
Sure, sure.
And I noticed from the two.
Both are frying. Yeah.
They are depending much more on frying.
Well, because we're only frying for 5 or 7 minutes. So I think when we're talking about frying, a lot of people fry food for 30, 45 minutes. We're just 5, 7 minutes. So majority of the flavor and the nutrient is still in there. We don't overcook the food.
Yeah.
So yes, I agree. Not too much of anything is not good for you anyway.
Are there any vegetables that you stay away from, or types of mushrooms that you stay away from?
I don't eat a lot of mushrooms, but no, all mushrooms seem fine, from shiitake to portobello and all of that. And ladies, you want to come up with all the angels to give it a try? And I think there might be seconds. Now, something that we keep in our kitchen that's really good, Old Bay seasoning, no garlic or onions. For your salads, balsamic vinegar, or we have a sesame oil one. I think it's from Annie's. And most of these seasonings, we use it just about almost every day. When it's Indian seasoning, it's jeera, fenugreek seeds, cumin, turmeric. Help me. Coming, right. So when it's the Indian seasoning, it's very different than when it's more international. So then you can experiment. But sometimes when you're cooking tofu, just put this in the oil. You need nothing else, and salt and black pepper. That's it. Can you believe it? Whenever I travel, and I travel a lot, I've been to 93 countries around the world, I take this in a bag, in my Ziploc, because I know that when I have to prepare, I put this, black pepper rice, and I'm done. And it tastes amazing as if I'm home. So don't forget to honor the food. So you give those vibrations, and then just feel free to go into it knowing the energy that it was prepared with. And, huh? And if you don't like it, you can make it your face. I have no problem with it. I know you try. You really want to eat that? And after this, we're going to cut down the Facebook Live. And I guess if you want to have a little dance performance. You see. Yeah. For Santosh, it's been very easy for him to just use the Instapot. I think so, because I don't use pressure cooker. He does. I don't believe I've ever cooked in a pressure cooker, but maybe once. It's not my talent. I have no idea how to do a pressure cooker. So Santosh does that, and I know a lot of the mothers that make a lot of dal and lentils, they use pressure cookers. I've never used a pressure cooker, but maybe once in my whole life. So he knows it.
I need to ask, is Instant Pot the same as an electric cooker, what you have? I think
I would ask Santosh. And David, do you think it's the same? Instapot and electric pot? Electric cooker? Oh, you want to say that?
Instapot is an electric pressure cooker.
they're the same.
Yeah, so electric cooker need not be a pressure cooker. Instapot is an electric pressure cooker.
The same way as a pressure cooker.
Yes, yes, yes. Actually, it doesn't make any sound much, and it's quicker.
And any kind of brand that's popular,
Instapot.
that's the brand.
Yeah, there's other coming up. Instapot
You
is
want to
very
tell her the
popular.
one that we use? I don't even know.
Right, the one we use right now is Instapot. Yeah. So there's different capacities you can buy, whatever, depending on your needs.
Yeah. How is it so far? Is it okay? Do you feel the vibrations more than the taste, don't you? That's the loving asparagus. See what I'm saying? See, but what it is, I always tell you, it's the vibrations. I remembered Sister Gita is the one who's the real chef in the family. And Sister Gita has been practicing Raj Yoga for over 37 years. And whenever she cooks, people actually start to cry, the love that they feel. I've had, recently, there was a gentleman that was at the ashram last week, and she just got up and cooked one of her meals, and he says, oh my God, just feel like crying, it's so good. So what it's saying is that it's the soul that's being served, the soul. And when the soul is served, then the cells in your body is also being served. So when your cells in your body are being served and your mind and your body is feeling at comfort, then you have less desires. So then you will make choices that are less desireful and more desireless. You understand? So it creates that feeling. All right, any other questions? Everything's all right? Yeah? So Santosh, could you play some nice, happy, healing music? And I think what we're going to do is close down the Facebook Live now. And we're going to thank all of you for tuning in today with us. And hopefully you got some tips that helped you today to make your cooking in the kitchen just a little bit more peaceful. Don't forget to come by the Meditation Museum or visit any of our Brahma Kumaris meditation centers around the globe. Take care. Om Shanti. We love you. Okay, I think we actually can do almost seconds. I'm saying it because I'm not in the kitchen, so I have no idea. But there must be like... So you got this, so the sauce for the vegetables is this balsamic one. You get it at Costco's, right? So, okay, it's for the salad. This is on the salad. So the salad, I think it's what? Lettuce or spinach or something? Yeah. What I like to do, I usually like to mix my foods up with it. So like when you were to mix like the asparagus with the rice and the mushrooms, it's just really tasty. It just reminds me of my day of having fricassee everything. And it just used to taste really good. So is it all right? Tasty? Now look at this, guys. The only serving, the only seasoning in the loving asparagus and bell pepper delight is this. I swear to you, nothing else. That's it. And don't forget your happiness, your vibration plays a big role. Tastes like everything is in it, right? So the energy. So you've got that. Now, let's say you're making tofu. This is totally not involved with all the stuff we did today. Anything that you're doing like tofu and harder foods, this is a winner. You just need this, salt, and black pepper. But when you cook tofu, don't cook it with this. It's not going to give it a nice flavor. When you cook with tofu, cook with vegetable oil or canola oil or whatever oils that you like, because the tofu needs a good amount of time. I don't like soft tofu. If you like soft tofu, that's fine. So maybe you can experiment with that, but I needed a little bit kind of reminding me of my Jamaican jerk. So I needed with some consistency, right? So I make sure the oil, the trick to making really good tofu, always make sure your oil is very hot. Then you either slice your tofu up like in slices or cut them up in dice. And then you put that in the hot frying pan with this in it. So make sure this is in it, because that's just going to seep into the flavor. You cook that up until it's brown on all sides or pretty hard on both sides. Never cover the lid. It will be soggy. And the best kind of tofu to get is tofu that's firm or extra firm. If you want to make scrambled, so like scrambled tofu, which looks like scrambled eggs, because we don't do eggs either, but scrambled tofu, don't get the hard, but you can take the get the in-between one. But I prefer the hard ones because then it comes up with that nicer feeling, but you have to crush it up. But it's up to you to do it either way. Can we go for seconds for everybody, Tulsi, or there's not enough? Can you ask the team? Right. So if anybody wants seconds, we'll find out if there's stuff in the back. That was chocolate. That was that was your treat. Wasn't that nice? So that's almond. That's almond with a little bit of lemon chocolate.
Any other one item that you make just with always
You can do anything with it. And no, okay. Anything tofu. Sister Gita might be the best one. Soya nuggets. If you make bok choy and all of that, I go back to this. Anything with broccoli, bok choy, squash, help me, celery, bell peppers, asparagus, this. Potatoes with this. Tofu with this. Soya with this. Cabbage with this. I'll do cabbage if it's mixed up with something else with this, right? And you can experiment with it, right? I mean, it'll be perfect for you. Yeah, I put this in the hot oil and then I put all the food in, and then after that, the only thing I add is salt or black pepper. Yeah? Yeah, I'm so glad you enjoyed it. And so what I know that Antonia needs me. You had a question? No, sorry. You can use Himalayan salt, sea salt, all of that is very, very good. Yeah. The only reason why some of the things we tend to hold back